everybody. It is Alex from Heavy New York calling from Zoom again, and this time we are here with Lynn Turner. Great to be able to talk with you, man. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, Alex.
Anytime, man. Anytime. We got Belly of the Beast coming out next week on October 28th. This phenomenal collaboration between you and Peter from Hypocrisy. This album is
Right.
kick ass, but for people who haven't heard the full length yet, do you feel that the first two singles that you released, being Black Sun and the title track, serve as a good representation of what this whole album will sound like, or is that just the tip of the iceberg?
I think it's a representation, but then the iceberg is a tip, and there's a big one behind underneath it. So yeah, there's a whole lot more to this album that I think people will really love. The more I listen to it, the more my favorite songs change. So I think it has that quality and cohesiveness.
Oh, that's awesome. Was this like a collaboration that you've always wanted to have? Like, did you like Peter seek you out, or you sought Peter out specifically for the making of this, or was this like a very organic, like out of the nowhere sort of collaboration?
Well, it did happen by accident. Real short story. I was playing for his brother's birthday party. Peter had hired me to play because his brother Tommy's a big fan, and we just started talking after the performance and drinking and cavorting, and we found we had a lot in common. So we just said, why don't we do something together? So he said, okay. So he gave me a track. Take it home, write to it, record your vocals, send it back. Let's see what we got. And actually, that track is "Don't Fear the Dark," which is on this album, which is a real cool rocker. And he liked it. So next step was that I went to the studio. We wrote two more songs right there in the studio. We knew we had some kind of chemistry. So that's when we decided to really follow through with the album. We went on tour. We didn't have time to do any more. And then the pandemic hit and we were locked down. And that's when we really dug into the writing and production of this album.
Hmm.
We came up with the 11 songs.
Do you feel, being that both of you are such prolific artists, between your history with Rainbow and Deep Purple and Yingve and Peter with Hypocrisy and Pain and Lindman and so
Yeah.
many, do your previous projects at all maybe kind of influence this? Like, kind of like is there like any of those projects within the DNA, or were you both kind of stepping into uncharted territory?
No, I think they did, because what we were trying to do was make a bridge, say, between melodic hard rock, which is my style where I'm coming from, and obviously industrial metal. So we said, let's make a bridge. Let's stay on the vision and combine these two genres. And anytime we went left or right of those genres, we pull it right back to center and say, this has got to be the bridge. This has got to represent both sides of the story, right? So yeah, we had a vision of that. So there's tremendous influence from both sides. I mean, if you listen to the beginning of Black Sun and so on, you'll hear like a purple thing or a rainbow thing, and you might hear some Pain stuff, some Linden stuff, things from Peter's side peeking in and out, like my side. Choruses are still melodic, and big. So it's definitely influenced by both our paths.
Hmm. And you
Absolutely.
And you said my favorite word when talking to a vocalist, that being story. Being that both you and Peter are phenomenal vocalists, and Peter, has always expressed like concepts within his Hypocrisy catalog,
Yeah.
and the lyricism that you've had all from your catalog, I feel like is very relatable. Some of it has aged very well. Would you say that this record also has kind of like a conceptual element, like a story that you want to engage the listeners in as much as the music, or could this album be very open to interpretation?
Well, I think it's pretty direct. As Peter said, I tend to write stories, from start to finish, really. And I try to make it clear to the audience. I could write cryptically where you have to guess what it is, but I think, well, there's some of it on this album, but at the same time, this is pretty clear. And what I'm writing about really is kind of art representing life. It's a mirror of reality, and what an artist should do is really paint or write what's around him, what is happening in the world, and that's what inspired me. Not only externally, but internally. And I could go through all the songs and whatnot, but it's really what I was feeling inside and what I was seeing outside, and my reactions to it. So people are going to relate to this, and things are going to resonate with them simply because they're here on this planet, just like I am.
Hmm.
It's more or less for every man. That we all go through situations like this. The single that's coming out with with the album on the 20th of October is Tortured Soul with the video. And basically, a long story short, it's about trauma. And we all experience some forms of trauma in our life. Our childhood usually is the greatest part of trauma. But, you know, originally written about a friend of mine, a war vet who has PTSD. And that's an incredible trauma. But then I realized not only is that the trauma in life, but a woman can be raped. That's trauma. A child could be molested. He could see violence in his family, et cetera, et cetera. Trauma. So you're a tortured soul because all your life you're trying to heal yourself. So you know this is relatable to everyone, even in the smallest way or the biggest way.
Definitely.
So I think the record is lyrically full of that type of those idioms.
And art imitating life is one of the truest statements. And speaking of which, I know the painting that's on the album cover is just right to your is like right in your presence, and like I think that's very very fascinating. Is it fair to say that for your lyricism, you know, obviously all these experiences determine the lyrics, but is it fair, do you think that that also maybe determines the music? Like let's say this was an instrumental album, do you think it would sort of convey that similar emotion that you're expressing through your lyricism?
I think so. I saw this painting. A friend of mine, Alex, his name's Alexander as well. He's a real edgy young guy. You know, lives very bohemian life. He's an amazing tattoo artist and painter. And when I saw this painting about a year before the whole album was finished, even I knew this had to be the cover because it's so powerful. It's disturbing, and I believe as my wife is a big art collector, like real art collector. And art should disturb you. It should shake you. It should make you see a different perspective that you haven't seen before. Whether you like it or hate it, you'll never forget it. It moves you. And that's what true art does. And when I saw this cover, this painting, which he thankfully gave me, that's why it's in my possession, I said, this has to be the cover because it's so powerful. And actually, it is a self-portrait. That's him under there.
Really?
It's him with the skull. Yeah, it's really him. It's his body, his hands, filthy, everything. And that represents that belly of the beast. I said, this is so powerful. You know, he couldn't believe it because he's still a struggling artist. And he said, Joe, you're gonna put me on a cover that the whole world's gonna see. And I said, you deserve it, Alex. You know, you really do. You've got, and you should see the other stuff. His art is amazing.
Can we see the painting?
Edgy.
Can we see the painting for the viewers if it's not too much?
Well, yeah. I hope I can get it in. Can you see that?
Yep, that's perfect. Yeah, that's the beauty right there. Look at that thing of beauty right there. That's amazing.
It is. I don't. You know, I should put the lights on for you, but. You know what?
View is perfect.
It's pretty big, as you can see. You know, it's probably as big as your piece behind you. And it's got to be hung because right now it's just resting on the closet there. But at the same time, I knew this is what it was. This was the representation. And we also wanted to make the photographs, you know, inside the CD and album and things like that, also artistic. So we have. My wife's friend is an extremely brilliant videographer, photographer, and she really captured the essence of my new look and everything with the serpent, symbolic form, etc. You know, so we wanted this whole thing to be more artistic than just here's an album, you know, throw it against the wall and see what sticks. We wanted to do something.
Yeah, I don't call this album an album. I don't call Belly of the Beast an album. I call it an experience because I feel like it really does enhance all forms of senses, visually, sonically. I feel like it really, and emotionally and feeling. I think it's truly breathtaking. And your references to trauma, I think is really like, I almost feel like, and forgive me for assuming, it almost seems like darkness. You really know how to use pain as a paintbrush. And I think that goes back to, you know, Rainbow's Difficult to Cure or Straight Between the Eyes, which Straight Between the Eyes is now 40 years old this year. I can't believe it.
Yeah.
But, you know, obviously art is cathartic, making art about these experiences. But when you have to rely on pain, does that also maybe make the songwriting process a little deteriorating too?
I think pain is, as aptly named by Peter's band, he knew it too. When we touch our pain, I think that's when real creation starts. You can write a happy song, don't worry, be happy, and all that. But I think pain is something that's universal within people's hearts and souls. And I think it touches the human being spirit greater than almost anything because we all have degrees of pain and different kinds of pain. And the dark side is also very important, as Carl Jung would say, the shadow, because if you don't embrace your dark side and you don't know your dark side, you are always going to commit, you're always going to get into it and you'll have no control over it, actually. I mean, we all know there's good and evil in all of us, but the dark side should be more embraced. And it's also been actually clinically proven that most creative people use the darker side of things to really create some amazing things. And some people would never even believe it, whether it's an architecture or a paint. They would say, wow, you wrote that because of the evilness or the sin or what have you on the darkness. Yes, it is a great motivator. It is a great liberator. So I think you have to touch the dark side a bit more, especially if you're going for art.
100%.
If you look at Bosch, if you look at Goya, you look at any of these guys, I mean, I'm not talking Mona Lisa here, and I'm certainly not talking still life with a bowl of flowers, but I'm talking depth. There's pain in there.
Absolutely.
There's always some pain.
As an Edvard Munch fan, I couldn't agree with you more.
But I want to say something to you personally. The experience word. May I use that? Because I call the album a journey, but you're right. It is an experience.
It really is. I'm really glad you like that saying because it really is like and look, there's some albums that it's cool put it on, listen to it as you're cooking or cleaning like that. I think that serves just as much of a purpose. But when you're able to make a creative experience and take us out of our reality and create an art that is about confronting demons, I think it really is not only a great inspirational for people to use in their daily life, but I think that is how we inspire new artists in a way. And that's why, and that's what I kind of wanted to ask you about, because again, whenever I listen to any album in your catalog, whether it be Straight Between the Eyes or Bent Out of Shape or any or this new album, it always seems like that is an art of confronting your demons. That's the art that you master. Does that at all make every project that you've been involved with similar? Is there a similar mindset between this and what you've done with Rainbow and Deep Purple, or is it always a completely separate mindset depending on the project?
No, you hit on a subject. Absolutely, it's similar. One fan, when Belly of the Beast came out, one comment was very astute. And he said, people, you shouldn't be surprised because Joe's been doing this his whole career. If you look into his solo albums and Rainbow, his whole past, you'll see bits and pieces of exactly what he's doing here, only it's not as cohesive and all put together. There are some love songs mixed in. There are some just plain old hard rock songs or whatever, And he was right. He said it perfectly because, yes, I've been doing this the whole time. And I think you brought up something about confronting the demons constantly. I fought with my demons forever. I think people still are. I mean, that's exactly what we're about because every day there's a struggle between good and evil. If you look at the world today, which is exactly what's happening in Belly of the Beast and Black Sun, we're looking at evil. We're looking at not only a physical war here, but a spiritual war. And those are the fallen angels, as I say in Belly of the Beast, they're gathering for the feast. They want to consume the souls of humanity. And we're fighting for our humanity and our spirit, our free spirit, our God-given creator, the divine mind. That's what we're fighting here today. We're not, what is it in, I forget my Bible verse, but we are fighting dark principalities. We're not fighting flesh and blood, as it says. We are fighting against these evil spirits.
100.
And maybe it doesn't seem like that to the average guy, but if you look at it, you'll say, what type of person, if it is a person, is more demonic to do such diabolical things that's happening in our world today? This is demonic.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
And art
filled with, people get filled with this demon stuff. You know,
Well, how they say that there's nothing certain in life except death and taxes. I think the person who made that saying up passed out before he could say suffering as well. So like everybody
oh, that's
suffers.
suffering is our main point. There's pain,
Absolutely.
suffering. You see, you have to look at suffering. I mean, we're going. I think we're on the track. Yeah, it's wonderful talking to you. Suffering is like you have to have suffering. If you don't suffer, you have nothing. Because suffering is a lesson. It's an opportunity for each of us to learn something and to grow and evolve to our higher mind, to our higher spirit. If you don't suffer like Christ suffered, the whole myth of Christ is about suffering. Suffering for what? Suffering to save us all. But he didn't say don't suffer. He just said realize what your suffering is. Your suffering will make you divine.
Yep. It's not the
It
hardships that
really
we
will.
face. It's not the hardships that we
That's
face. It's how we overcome them and what we do with it. And the fact that you're able to create an experience that's so relatable, I think is what makes an artist so great. It's one thing to be technically impressive, singing great range, play the kick-ass solo, play 400 BPM, which I think is the record now, but you know, but like if you can make something that hits the heart of somebody beyond the ears, I think that to me is what great art is. And for your inspiration to get into that creative mindset, do you almost need to kind of like put yourself in a specific place, like in like your own little man cave or element, or does inspiration just strike out of the blue for you?
Well, inspiration is always difficult. I always say it's 99% perspiration, 1% inspiration, because the muse doesn't always come through the window in the morning, and you have to have a discipline, a skill, like to write something down every day. I have pages and pages in books of all one-liners or some paragraphs or an essay or something that I take home ideas from. But I think what you were saying originally is that yes, great art in order to be manifested has to have that suffering, has to have something that relates to the rest of humanity that actually moves you. Like you said, you can have all this great technical stuff or a wonderful range, and you're really singing about nothing, or at least nothing so important. But when you get something like this, something that's important, in which I'm trying to bring that importance to light here. I think the world needs it right now. The world needs truth. The world needs freedom. The world needs each other more than ever. We've been divided. We had the old divide and conquer methodology brought on by these so-called leaders, and I think people need to be awakened to the fact that it's going to slip away from us if we don't rise up. There's the song, rise up and do something about this, because it will be too late before we find ourselves completely enslaved.
Yeah.
And we're going to lose our humanity, man. And never has the world been so close to even nuclear war. I mean, come on, look at this situation we're in.
I,
What happened?
I know. It's like the past 2 years, my biggest lesson, that I had to learn was, give me the strength to change the things I know I can, accept the things I know I can, and the wisdom to know the difference.
Right,
So like with everything
right.
that's been happening in the world, I can't control what's happening in the world. I'm just trying to, the best thing we could do is to push forward and make something of our lives. And I think
Right.
the creative process, I think being an artist is one of the greatest privileges to have that sort of release in a way, because some people do succumb to the madness of suffering with no escape from it, and it comes out the wrong way. And
Yes,
and
it's catharsis.
yep,
This is therapy. I mean,
absolutely.
I was. This is all therapy for me. And you're right. The word is privilege. We are privileged if we use it correctly to be able to have this therapy for ourselves as artists, whether it's any medium that you choose, because this really saves you. I know it makes me sane, as opposed to out of my mind when I was absolutely so confused, drugs, you name it, I've done it all until you find inner peace. And what I need that release. I need to release the demons. I need to beat them. I need to get rid of them. So that's the privilege that we have. Everyone has that privilege in their own way.
Yeah,
Actually, you don't have to make a great song or a painting. There's other ways you can do something. Like you said, make something of your life.
yeah,
Be purposeful.
yeah.
Be grateful. And fight your demons.
Or make
Okay.
peace with them.
So
Or make peace with them because they could be a great teacher.
yeah, well, what they say. what they say about that is never, if you're going to change something, never let the devil know in advance.
Very true. Very true. How are we doing on time? You have time for two more questions?
Oh, you know what? I was going to ask you. I sure do. But what I was going to ask you is, I am really, really enjoying this conversation, man.
Oh, thank you,
I
man.
feel like, no, I really feel like a connection here. And I don't know if you want to talk again, but I would love to.
Absolutely.
I don't care how, but I would love to.
Absolutely.
And if you want, because we only have like a minute left before I have to switch over.
Yeah.
But maybe you could just tell them you need a follow up.
Absolutely.
And we can continue, because I'm thoroughly enjoying this as a conversation with a friend.
Oh,
really, I am.
It means the world, man.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. To talk with an artist
No,
it speaks to
no,
me.
you have no idea how much it means to me.
Oh, anytime,
I
man.
can't do this with Alex. I can't do this with Andy. It's like I'm alone.
It happens, right? Well, being an artist is also the most lonely thing in the world, right? So.
Sure is.
Yeah.
So look, please get a follow up. Let's come back to each other again, okay, bro?
Absolutely.
And hold some questions and make some more.
Absolutely.
And thank you.
Absolutely.
Experience.
Everybody.
This was an experience.
And thank you, man, so much. Everybody, Joe Lynn Turner, Belly of the Beast, October 28th. Pick that up, and we will see you next time on Heavy New York.
Thank you, brother.